Am I the asshole for not letting my MiL host an online memorial service for my 26 female miscarriage? I recently miscarried at 12 weeks. The pregnancy was unplanned, but my husband and I were planning on keeping it as we are both financially secure enough to have a child. My husband was disappointed, but my MiL is devastated. She has been inconsolable and has called me multiple times crying. The issue is that I'm not upset about it at all. I really didn't have enough time to get attached to the idea of being pregnant, as I only knew for sure about 3 weeks before the miscarriage. I've listened to her whenever she needs, but she can't understand why I'm not as upset as her. The last straw came when my husband casually brought up a Zoom call MiL is organizing for the baby's memorial. We're still in lockdown, so in person is out of the question, thank God. She wants to invite a lot of their large, close-knit family. Hubby assumed that she'd talked to me about it, and phoned her to tell her she needed to take a step back. She blew up at him and called me cold and unfeeling and asked what mother wouldn't mourn the loss of their child. In my eyes, I'm not a mother, and I don't have a child. I miscarried a blob of cells. To me it's the equivalent of crying over my period every month. I understand not everyone feels like this and I want to be sympathetic, but a memorial is way beyond my comfort zone. I've refused to let it go ahead and she's been radio silent since. Husband is beyond stressed already from dealing with her and I think her grieving needs to take a back seat for a while. Am I the asshole? TLDR, MiL wants to hold a memorial service for a pregnancy I wasn't attached to. Edit, since some people asked for info, MiL had fertility issues. Husband is her only child and she dealt with a lot of early and late-term miscarriages. Not the asshole and your MiL is weird. At 12 weeks, a lot of couples haven't even told family about the pregnancy yet, as miscarriages are so common in the first trimester. Plenty of women miscarry without ever knowing they were pregnant. Having a memorial service for a 12-week pregnancy is not a thing. I'm sorry you and your husband are having to deal with this. Glad you're doing okay. When, if you get pregnant again, you might want to keep the information to yourselves until 16 weeks or so. Not the asshole I was going for N.A.H. until she insulted you for not grieving like she wants you to. Not the asshole. I get that she wanted to be a grandma, but holy fuck. She's imposing something on you that you don't want. You had not bonded to the baby at all yet. Hosting a memorial against your will is downright creepy. It's good your husband is backing you up. Yup, she needs to take a step back. Not the asshole, she's out of line. I say this gently. You have a slight husband problem, too. He really needs to take the lead at healthy boundaries setting with his mom. I am grateful he called her to tell her step back. I think this is a good time for you to talk privately with him on your mutual boundaries with her. This is a good time for you and him to really look at the roles of her. At a minimum, she is now completely on the outside of any information until you are ready to share. Lastly, sorry this is happening. That's intense. Not the asshole, she was well out of line with this. She can do what she wants with her own miscarriages, but this is an event in your life, not hers, to decide how to handle. This won't change my answer, but just to clarify, is she your MiL and his actual mother, or is she your husband's MiL too, i.e. his stepmother, his father's wife? Not the asshole. She needs to learn about ring theory. It's not your responsibility to comfort her grief over the idea of a baby. It's hers to comfort you, if you need it. I miscarried at 12 weeks, blighted ovum, 11 or 12 years ago. My mother, who had also started buying baby things, still brings it up, so be prepared. Not the asshole, she's way overstepping her boundaries. Not the asshole, this is your pregnancy loss, not hers. She can grieve and talk about it with her friends and family if she needs to, but she cannot dictate your emotional response to this event, nor can she have any expectation whatsoever that you should participate in her grieving process. Sorry you are dealing with this. Her being upset, okay. Given your comments about her previous struggles with infertility, her being upset is understandable. You not being upset, okay. My wife would be devastated. We've been struggling with infertility for about 3 years now, but that doesn't mean everyone is or should be. Her being upset that you're not upset and calling you cold and unfeeling, not okay. Her being upset does not make her lashing out okay. Her grieving does not need to include you, and you should not feel obligated to endorse it, much less participate. Criticizing you for not feeling how she does is unacceptable. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. WTF is wrong with MiL? It isn't her place to throw a memorial service. Especially since it isn't even her child. You aren't cooperating with how she feels, so of course she's going to paint you as a villain. But it was your pregnancy. Mourn, or don't, however you feel comfortable. Not the asshole. People often hear the word pregnancy and jump to living human baby, when at the earliest stages of pregnancy, it's really not that clear-cut. Not everyone feels like their baby is a living human to be immediately, and that lack of connection is not abnormal. It sounds like MiL really wanted to be a grandparent and is herself mourning the loss of that opportunity. Not the asshole. She sure is making it all about her. Not the asshole. She is disrespectful and making the loss of your unborn baby about her. Not the asshole. She has some real nerve and issues of her own to do such a thing. Just because she grieves in a certain way doesn't mean you have to. And grieving should be with, not to a person, which she's clearly doing to you, aka venting. It's just insane how self-centered some people are. Not the asshole. You get to grieve, or not, as the case may be, in your own way. As does she. But, planning a memorial for an unborn baby that the parents don't want? That's a whole different level of crazy. Not the asshole. She is taking over the grief for your loss, and that's not okay. Not the asshole. You lost a baby, not her. End of story. Not the asshole. Organizing what is essentially a funeral on someone else's behalf when they don't want one is weird. I suspect the MiL wants the memorial service for herself rather than for you, especially as a comment mentioned that she had had several miscarriages. In sociology, things like marriages and funerals are seen as ritualistic events, announcing a change in status that helps us to transition from one state to the next. In this case, expecting a grandchild and now not expecting a grandchild. MiL needs to find a way to transition that's within what you're comfortable with. Not the asshole. Your MiL is technically the asshole, although I do feel for her after you explained that your husband is her only child and she's had a lot of miscarriages herself. That explains why she's behaving this way. She's mourning the loss of a grandchild in her eyes, not just a blob of cells. Regardless, she is overstepping. Not the asshole. She's going to make that memorial all about her loss and forget you completely. So glad your husband shut that down, he's a good one. I'm truly sorry for your situation. I find it kind of odd that the wants to. I'll also add it's not her place to have one, and if you and your husband wanted one, that's something you two would do. I've never known anyone in my whole life to have something like that for a miscarriage unless they lost the baby at like 20 weeks, and even then it's been very, very few I've seen. So this. Not the asshole. Everyone handles a miscarriage differently. Your MiL sounds like she's less upset that you had one, and more that attention can't be put on her. Not the asshole. This is so rude, macabre and intrusive. Sounds like classic narcissistic behavior. It's all about her, and it's everyone else's job to deal with her emotions even in a situation that has little to nothing to do with her. Your husband really needs to learn how to set boundaries with his mom. Mom, no, and I'm too stressed to deal with you right now. When I'm ready to talk I will be in touch. Click. End of story. No coddling, handholding and working himself into a frenzy trying to emotionally regulate a grown woman as if she's a toddler. Not the asshole. Your body, your miscarriage, your grief or lack thereof. It was sort of okay. I mean, feelings are feelings, we can't control them until she insulted you that way. In the future, I wouldn't tell her I was pregnant until after I gave birth. Not the asshole. This was not your mother-in-law's pregnancy. She is treating it like it was. If she miscarried and felt like a memorial would help her grieve, fine. But you do not feel that way, and your wishes should be respected. Your mother-in-law is being incredibly selfish and doesn't care that she's making you uncomfortable. I would keep my distance for a while, and if you ever decide to get pregnant again, I wouldn't tell her until well after 20 weeks. Edit. Spelling. Not the asshole. You and your husbands are the only ones to make decisions on how to process the miscarriage. You can feel like celebrating, ambivalent, mourn, anything or all of the above. Not the asshole weirdo mother-in-law. It's perfectly fine to be sad, but I mean miscarriages are really common, especially in the first trimester. I had two. I wouldn't have wanted any unnecessary attention during those times. Not the asshole. I've had several miscarriages that absolutely devastated me. It took 10 years to have my daughter, so she's an only child. So I have a similar background to your MiL, and I think she's a massive asshole. She can't have it both ways. If she wants you to be devastated, she doesn't get to call you and cry about how sad she is. She needs therapy. Not the asshole. Even if you were grieving your miscarriage, your MiL is way out of line. She has no right to plan a memorial service for something that happened to you, without your permission or even notifying you. I honestly think that she knew she was doing something inappropriate, and that's why she never mentioned it to you. I cannot even imagine what might have happened if you hadn't found out until the day of the service and was surprised by it. Who even does something like that, throw a surprise memorial service? Not the asshole. She is way out of line. It's not the norm to have a memorial for a first trimester miscarriage. If the parents want to do something, then fine, but she is utterly ridiculous to try and push her grief on you. Not the asshole. It's not on you to feel the way she expects you to feel, and she needs to go get her emotional needs met by someone outside this situation. Sounds like an art justnormal. Not the asshole. It is not your job to comfort your MiL after your miscarriage. I'd get it if you were much further along, but 12 weeks, I agree with you. Sure, it's a bit disappointing, but there was nothing you could have done. I hope the next comes with no issues. MiL def overstepping things and needs to chill. Maybe not tell her the next time for a bit. I take it she was really excited and let it take her over. Not the asshole. Your feelings about it being a baby or not are moot. It was your pregnancy, and mourning should be your choice. She stepped up to try to dictate how you mourn, and that's ta. Thankfully your husband understood that and told her to cut it out. And to be honest, her feelings, the need to memorialize her lost grandchild etc. sounds really attention-seeking to me. NTA, huge NTA. MiL is way overstepping. My god, not the asshole. The other comments have it covered, but your MiL is being unfathomably awful. Not the asshole. She needs to learn about boundaries. Not the asshole. Seriously, fuck her. Wow, that's weird. I'm in the boat that grief doesn't need to be a public spectacle. Especially her grief overwhelming you like this is just weird. NTA. You don't have to attend, neither does your husband. She can mourn her way and you can have your own feelings. Not the asshole. What in the boundary stomping fuck? Not the asshole. Everyone mourns differently and has different views on miscarriages. It's your body and therefore your emotions that matter, not your MiL's. She's taking something personal and making it public, and making it about her pain, which isn't right. I lost my fourth child and it was devastating. My sister lost her first and describes it exactly like you. We don't judge each other for feeling differently about it. You are not the asshole at all. This is one of the weirdest things I have read. I'd never even consider a memorial for a miscarriage ever. Stay strong. Your MiL is the asshole. NTA. She is making your loss about her. How dare she? I've had 4 miscarriages and this would have sent me over the edge. The next time I got pregnant I wouldn't tell her until I absolutely had to. Not the asshole. You are the center of this grief circle and she needs to default to your opinions. Further, and I don't mean to be crass, but a memorial for a non-viable fetus is really cringy. Not the asshole. If your husband and you do have a child in the future, you need to be very firm in your boundaries with your MiL. This is obviously a person who will feel like the grandchild is her child and not your child. I would be very concerned that she would sabotage your parenting and not care about any limits or boundaries you try to erect. I mean, I get that she has trauma from her past miscarriages, but it's super fucking weird that she's that upset about it, like it was her own fetus that she lost. Not the asshole. Not the asshole at all. You are approaching things realistically and your MiL is super far out there. Something that bothers me is that she name-called you, and also that in the event you were heartbroken over this, her calling you crying would take any focus off you as the grieving mother-to-be and put it on herself. Super selfish and odd. NTA. Everyone deals with miscarriage differently. There is no right or wrong way for you and your husband to feel. But it happened to you, not her. It's not her place to decide how you should feel or what to do to deal with your miscarriage. Yes, she felt the pain of many miscarriages, but that doesn't mean you have to react the same way. She needs to back TF off. If she needs to grieve, she can do that without some big ceremony. I'm glad for you that this doesn't hurt you. Who wants someone to be miserable FFS? Not the asshole. Even if you were attached and grieving, you still may not want to do that publicly. She is seriously overstepping.